Welcome, everyone, to another Living the Mystical Life Daily webcast. In this late February 2018, right now I am joined by a very special person, Eleanor Lydia Bain. Eleanor is here to help talk about healing and therapies. Eleanor is a holistic practitioner and a member of the GH team. Eleanor, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Andrew. So I decided to join Andrew today and engage in a very special conversation about healing as it has been in the alternative metaphysical communities, where it is now and where it's moving forward, bringing in the modalities I have learned and used over the past 20 years, and then Andrew's modalities, practices, and teachings integrated, and how it has really heightened my practice and achieved results that I never thought were possible. So one side of my business is PEMF Therapy Barbados, and pulse electromagnetic field therapy is something that has been around for about 20 years as well, but only really became known and used in the alternative community about 10, 15 years ago.
It was developed by NASA, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
And then it's developed into this technology where it's refined, where you can have an at-home device, an in-hospital device.
Mm-hmm.
Share what the type of device that is that you use.
The particular model that I use is the IMRS 2000, and that is Swiss technology that is German built. So the IMRS has very unique features that stand out from a lot of the other models that are available on the market now. It not only produces the frequencies that are necessary to bring balance to the different cellular structures. So the technology first came about when the first sets of astronauts had come back and they had extreme conditions of physical and mental breakdown. And the scientists had to then find out what was the factor. And it was discovered that it was being outside of the Shaman frequency, the specific electromagnetic frequency that the Earth produces and emits that caused this rapid breakdown. So we have the blood and bone that we're made of, and then we have each atom, as we know, has an electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field of a human is often referred to as an aura. Everything that's made of atoms has this field around it. So before we become sick in a physical sense, within the muscles, the blood, the bone, the electromagnetic energy of these cells or the organs becomes deceased or disharmonious. What this system does is it targets the system in the body or part of the body structure, from fascia to lungs to every condition to depression, all the components that get disharmonized on the electromagnetic frequencies. It provides that frequency back in. So what happens is that the machine produces the specific electromagnetic frequency to the organ or system in the body. It operates like Newtonian balls, where the Newtonian balls are those balls you may have seen in science shows or experiments. And when you drop
We're having something going on in the room. So Robert, go ahead and just lock the room. Yeah, we're not going to be taking any extra calls. Go ahead and just lock the room over there.
Conference locked.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah. So what happens is when you drop the one frequency as the Newtonian ball, all of the other balls go in entrainment to the same direction and speed. And this is what happens when the body receives the correct electromagnetic frequency, that the rest of these cells in that system or body part will come back into harmony. There's been so much research done with PEMF, such as simple blood tests and other things, where you can see within 8 minutes that there's a direct change in the blood. The blood, instead of being coagulated and stacked, starts to flow freely once again, which is a major component to health and well-being. Along with this, you have a biofeedback device that takes the information from your body, from your heart rate, and sees how your body is actually responding to the frequencies, along with specific tones that are worn via earpieces while you're receiving the treatment. And what this does is it takes the brain out of the alpha brain wave and right down deep into theta.
So there are LED lights that are over the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
There is a biofeedback device on the finger, a Chinese organ clock,
Mm-hmm.
and the audio that's all in sync with the vibrations with the magnetic system.
Correct, with the magnetic mat that is underneath you. So you're laying on this. So it's a very, very relaxing treatment. And in fact, most people tend to go into a deep, deep sleep. I've heard many snores on my table within 5 minutes of a treatment.
As have I. As have I been the snorer too.
So I want to talk a little bit from your perspective when you work with the machine and understanding the graph which is produced as well after treatment to show, as a scientific, backup of what has happened in the body. I mean, PEMF is FDA approved. It is acknowledged to work as effectively as it does.
PEMF is also used in the private hospitals in Germany and throughout Europe. And one of the reasons they have a very high success rate on the majority of their surgeries, because they use PEMF therapy and a number of other types of techniques that help the particular patient in the bed itself. Here's a harsh example. In the hospital industry, the bed that you sleep on in ICU or in the room, before it's retired, at least 30 to 70 people have died on that bed. Would you want to be on a bed 30 to 70 people have died in 7 years? No, you wouldn't. So hospitals, when they take this into effect and use devices like high-frequency PEMF and low-frequency PEMF, which is the different styles, we get an opportunity to balance electromagnetic energy or the ancestral energy. Pulse electromagnetic therapy works at the Shaman resonance, the natural magnetic frequency. Is it an artificial energy? Well, it's a magnet that's been spun and wound just like everyone's car batteries or everyone's car engine or the drill inside, the motor inside your drill, whatever it is. As long as it is doing that, it is creating electromagnetic current and frequency. It's creating an EM field. The mat that we are talking about, 2000, what is going on there, it has several of those in there. And it is able to have one go on and another go off, two go on at the same time, all go on, all in a different pattern and frequency that is matching a heart rate variable system. And this is using the biofeedback device to measure the heartbeats. And it is looking for 3, 5, and 7 heartbeat reductions. So if you're familiar in athletics, HVP is the heart rate variable. That heart rate variable determines in-between beats. The in-between beat determines how much frequency and energy you can create in between heartbeats. So the IRMS is measuring that, and it will raise the frequency of what it's giving you, higher and higher and higher voltage, or not voltage, the hertz of energy at that Schumann resonance in these spun coils that are all over the mat that are matched to sound, matched to light, that are keeping you in high theta or low delta. From just understanding that basic concept, you are beginning the process of hacking the hologram. And it's where the out loud name it to claim it system, the audio in, can be used with your own words, your own style, your own unique frequency of passing on the essence of who you are in theta or delta, helping yourself get out of the alpha mind, where we're just sharks in the water, waiting for the next instant gratification bite.
And the thing is, the combination of the technology used here really provides a great opportunity for the body to move out of homeostasis. Additionally, whatever thought processes and patterns may come up, it assists you greatly to override that so that your body can actually accept the healing and not resist it, which is what happens many times using, whether it's technology, whether it's hands-on healing, energy healing. This is something we'll run into many, many times.
Yes, that heart rate variable right there is the in-between state. And when you get yourself out of stuck alpha and the in-between theta and delta state, it is where your heart can rapidly slow down and new chemical stimuluses can be created through the changing of the sensory information. Now, another thing that I do quite frequently with the IMRS Pro is I also include a neurophone. Are you familiar with the neurophone?
Yeah, I am.
So the neurophone was developed in the late 90s. Oh, I forgot the guy's name.
Patrick Flanagan.
Patrick Flanagan.
Yeah.
But in the late 90s by Dr. Patrick Flanagan.
The inventor. He's an inventor.
He's an inventor. You can look it up, the Patrick Flanagan Neurophone, and what it does, it takes sound and converts it into ultrasound or ultrasonic paddles that you put on your forehead. And the way this machine works is it can put you into an alpha state or a theta state, as well as allowing you to hear natural sounds and music as if they were without your ears, because your skull becomes a resonator to the ultrasound and you hear without your ears. You actually hear it inside your head. And when I use the out loud name it to claim it system with a neurophone combined with the LED lights and the pulse electromagnetic therapy, you are passing on an even more intense essence, because you are again bypassing the physical body and hacking the hologram at another level.
So what you're doing, in fact, I remember my first time I experienced it. For me, it is one of those defining moments where something happens and instantly your own belief system can be broken and split into something new. Because let's say there was some music put on YouTube. So where you would hear it through your ears, when the neurophone is placed on your forehead, you hear it inside your brain. You don't hear the music externally. And it's a powerful realization that this is even possible. And the other benefits of the integration of the left brain and the right brain, which is in keeping with a lot of the work that you do, Andrew.
And I've had a number of private retreats where the graph that comes back in the RMS Pro, what it does is it shows how much more frequency they can absorb when they're using the neurophone if they're practiced at listening to their voice. If they're practiced at understanding it's the heart rate variable, it's a microsecond in which the heart is deciding, am I speeding up or really slowing down, that you can bring intense frequencies and harmonies into the body for great energetic healing.
Absolutely. I mean, when you see the look on people's faces, I mean, it really is very, very humbling. Sometimes it's incredibly funny, and one mustn't poke fun then. But
yes, and then there are times where they're having full-on somatic healings.
Yeah.
In one of the retreats we did back in November, there was quite a few that were coming off the PEMF mat that were in tears because their vision flowed. Mm-hmm. They used the machine enough times to ride it like a motorcycle of vision.
Well, I've had so much feedback from clients over the years where they actually have visions and they actually see persons or, they have a lot of visions on the mat as well. They can go in, they can access that part of the brain, because we haven't even talked about the laser lights and the goggles, the LED lights that are produced there. And they allow, so again, each condition we experience in the body is represented like all other things as a string in the brain, a string that contains the information of whatever that system or that thing is. And we can break the old neural networks and allow new neural networks to grow. So many times I will have persons expressing to me during the session when they'll feel something moving or they feel something running down their arm, various parts of their body, and it's very noticeable for them, and they will mention it. And this is where you have nerves, part of the messages and the information in the nervous system that die or are created in the body.
Or are trapped in a particular area and can't go any further. A lot of people who've had limb loss or damage to a particular area with lots of fleshy damage, the magnets start to not necessarily regrow, influence the blood that's in that area that can stimulate asymmetric growth or some form of stem cell attraction process, which will grow more. Or you have the phantom limb syndrome going on also. And that's that trapped energy. That's our rest of our energy. And that's something I'd like to touch on, how the PEMF can clear stuck energy, programs that just won't go away. What I discovered when I started using the mat, it was very easy to observe my sympathetic and parasympathetic. My built-in programs, just like everyone else that has out there, in the observing state, it was far more easier to paint the artist brush of what I wanted there and to lower the volume, intensity, and relevance of those other things. And in some states, use intense self-psychic surgery to go at the core of where it was and to just lift it away as the pulsing magnets just kind of puffed it up like hot air creating a balloon.
So for one of the examples of heightening it was, I remember I had used experimentally your rainbow meditation and the other meditation on the website and some of the heart meditations. So to persons after they've had a period of listening to those tones and sounds, that they will put them into the theta and then they're much more receptive. And when you speak to your body when you're in that state and you're an equal co-creator to your own healing, which is essential. I think everybody who's been exposed to your teaching now understands that no matter who's healing you, a doctor, allopathic medicine certainly has its place. Whichever system you're using, ultimately, you could Jesus Christ could come down and heal somebody mentally, physically, emotionally, completely. If the individual chooses to not make the connection between themselves and the condition they're experiencing, it can go back to the same thought patterns, same lifestyle, same emotional patterns, and recreate the same thing. So what has been incredible is being able to integrate a lot of your practices with clients and clients from all different varying belief systems. But because your system and what you're presenting is quite neutral, they're able to go into a state of relaxation without resistance and have an even deeper healing experience.
And that is the key to living the mystical life daily. When one begins the first process of sacred discipline, meaning I'm beginning a practice, knowing that repetition creates illumination, especially in these types of teachings, and you take it into a device that is giving you natural earth energy on a cyclical process, it is then allowing you, through light interaction, to go from alpha to theta to delta, to have a heart rate variable measurement that can increase the frequency and match it for you, so the energy that's coming through the electromagnetics is equivalent to your balancing your actual frequency at that moment. That is what biofeedback is.
And it is of the most importance in the time that we live in. One of the things that we are deeply affected by in this time is the amount of radiation and electromagnetic smog that is actually contrary to our natural frequencies. Sitting X amount of hours in front of a computer or having your phone on you all day, or being in an area where there's much cell towers and activity, the fiber optics, all of this, our body is interacting with and absorbing. And this can put off health-wise very quickly. You'll find people in big offices who work in high-rises and are just encased in this electromagnetic smog are those who respond the best to these types of treatments, because if we could balance that energy, a lot of other things then fall into place.
And then as those things fall in place, there are patterns the self-illuminated person can do. And with just a handful of times on the mat, maybe 2 or 3, you learn how, like I say, to run it like a motorcycle. Meaning if your eyes are looking up, you're more than likely in delta. If your eyes are looking down with the mask on, you're more than likely in theta. Okay? And if it's going back and forth, you're in REM sleep. You're in that hypnagogic state. Hypnagogia or hypnagogic states are when the mind is between sleep and awake, and you are almost in sleep paralysis or are able to override the sleep paralysis and still be fully lucid. The IRMS Pro, it creates the soup of environment to make sure lucidity is a high potential.
Yes. And then we can even take it further for those out there that are familiar with Andrew's Alchemy series, that have attended the events and know what the special tools that Andrew makes. So one way I have used that alchemical healing process is that Andrew and I had created some tools last year, and I brought them back and I placed them at the corners of the massage table where I had the mat and where the clients were taking the treatment. And for those who are open to it, we did more the metaphysical work or spiritual healing that is part of my portfolio of services. And again, that is presenting a similar technology, which is this piezoelectric effect, and can greatly enhance the experience again on to have deep levels
of interpersonal spiritual communication with yourself, as well as the clearing factor, because a lot of those tools are having 30, 40 to 50 different types of crystals in them, all under their own electromagnetic pressure from the beeswax. There are times that I also add tuning forks, and there was the time that I had that with you, and you could feel the vibration matching the music. There are so many ways to incorporate into your practice using pulse electromagnetic therapy. One other thing that I'd like to touch on, when one is in this state, hypnagogic state, in between sleep and awake, it is where your sovereignty has new levels of responsibility to it. Are you as the I am, able to let the body go into full sympathetic and parasympathetic rest, where you are in 100% service to the body's needs? The answer is yes, you do it every night you sleep. But it helps us put on the training wheels to remind us not to leap into our dreaming bodies and go off. And when we begin to practice that specialized moment, in that one specialized moment, the graph on the PEMF machine will show a jump to 400.
Yes, I have witnessed that many times.
Many times. And there is where, if you know what's the material, if you know that you're speaking out 12, 18, 22 minutes of this particular material, and you know roughly how long, you can find out where your triggers were.
We have a lot of creative applications we have used, such as there's also a very special component of the machine called a probe. And the probe acts as a form of acupressure/puncture. So there's a completely different type of wave. So this technology uses square waves and what we call saw waves. So with the probe, you can take a specific condition, let's say Lou Gehrig's disease. Let's take a disease like that. Well, we do have, specific settings that we can target that in the body, but we can then use the probe at a specific frequency and place it over the skull to target it at the level of creation and the brain connection, because everything is connected from there. So there are so many ways that we also have been experimenting, because they have the standard uses. When you start to see the pattern recognition between, you then are able to apply it for greater equations to get yield a higher result.
Yielding results is the key to advancing your spirituality. Each one's a victory. And the IRMS Pro, when used with conscious application of awareness processes, meaning you're going into it to be aware, and your intention is to use your own frequency voice in the Living the Mystical Life daily process or whatever meditative process that you want to do, so you're able to create your self-illumination process. You take the middleman out, and the discernment is the music or voice being played to me authentic? That's all where you got to start with is authentic. Using that authentic drive to be you, the one that's just traveling from theta to delta, and your own frequency touches you and reminds you to be lucid. Touches after that over and over remind you to be lucid. Lucid in powerful spiritual moments. Many people get lost to the vision, and when the vision's over, they barely remember it. Pulse electromagnetic therapy encourages to slow down to make the memory also. Healing is a process, not an event. And the heart rate variable, the HRV, measures their processes for you. I would advise people to go and look up heart rate variable and look how athletes are practicing it to train their bodies. They are programming their reality, learning how to use the heart rate and its variability within it to create a higher frequency of unity within themselves. Now, I incorporate the tools, tuning forks, and singing bowls. Now, the next part here, pulse electromagnetic therapy is a harmony in a vibration in the electromagnetic spectrum that our bodies can sense as the DNA instrument. Sound is light in another form. Sound is very dense in the wave format. When I begin to incorporate a singing bowl, actually touching the body, going through the high frequency, we can notice humongous changes in the HRV, as well as the way that the bowl sings.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of very, very unique experiences. The singing bowls on their own are a very, harmonizing process. But when you put it on top of that, it expands even further.
Yeah. So singing bowls, they make this one, 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 one noise. And the pulse electromagnetic system essentially makes the same thing, except in a electromagnetic spectrum. When you're harmonizing these, you're creating vibrational matches. And it is the vibrational matches that change the body into healing. The mind becomes a vibrational match to accept the energy. The body becomes a vibrational match for change. And then you drive forward the hologram by continuing this match for this vibrational harmony.
Yes, and you're imprinting your reality. I mean, I don't know if you care to touch at this time on, I've seen you use the mat in spiritual work to produce within an area, in a house or a space, to produce certain frequencies that are needed there to bring balance.
Yeah. So you were talking about the probe before, and it's basically like a really giant, oversized metal pen. And what it does is when you turn it on, it go from 1 hertz to 400 hertz or 500 hertz. And you can set it to what you want, and you have other pre-programmed settings to deal with specific issues. When you put a probe, it has a 1.5-foot cone, a zone of energy around it, and then a 3-foot beam on it. So this is where the acupuncture, acupressure ideology comes from. You can put it laser pinpoint it from a deep far away or deeply in front of the area and nurture one particular area with this electromagnetic frequency, which will then activate the limbs and do a whole bunch of other things. What I'm doing with this is activating the governor vessel, the conception vessel, to get the mind and heart connection process in action. Now, acupuncture, trigger point therapy does very similar concepts. We want you in your body. We want you out of stress. When you begin activating the governor vessel along with the conception vessel and the spiritual energy centers, the crown process goes to the heart very easy. The mind and the heart is very easy. The more difficult part is getting the mind, heart to the gut, into that gut feeling we all have. So more of the dreamy inspiration frequency can be there. That is ultimately that spiritual experience you're looking for. And I'm encouraging the body through my visual sight, my spiritual sight, and my knowledge of the body and the DNA instrument to encourage a aha moment experience, or in some scenarios, full-on psychic surgery. which you've experienced,
Yes,
before.
I have. There is also a unique system that Andrew has created, and I know he's in the system of doing a number of things with this, but I want to talk a little bit about the magnet that you would put on, and what really, just the simple bullet magnets that you use, what they do and how they could be used for those out there that, would understand.
Okay, so the same type of magnets I put inside the beeswax tools, oversized 30, 40, and 50 and 40 millimeter hematite, high-end hematite and magnetite magnets, and then these bullet-shaped magnets, which have rounded edges on both sides, and they're about 4 inches long. Very high-powered magnets. When you incorporate those into PEMF therapy, you are actually changing the field itself to have many facets of energy instead of it to be a nimbus, omnidirectional energy that spreads to a certain thing and then stops as a sphere. It gives it shape and bubble and size and allows the mind a more protected process. It separates the densities of energy easily, and it's a humongous stress reliever. So if you look up hematite as a stress reliever, it reduces the negative spiritual energies that are around you, so on and so forth, the standard stuff they've been saying about it for hundreds of years. You're now adding that into a natural earth, a magnetic frequency, and those magnets take on that earth energy coming out of the PEMF machine and take it into their core, radiate it out at their base field that's coming out them, and then the overall field that includes all of the magnets now has these hundreds of little facets that are in it, where the practitioner can turn like a multi-dimensional Rubik's Cube.
Because they each contain their own individual north and south pole and code.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, years from now, it'll be very interesting to see what is going to emerge, because this is still a relatively new technology that is being used in mainstream. I was very tickled when I was doing some research initially when I had purchased in 2015, and there was a write-up that Dr. Crusher from the Star Trek series. I don't know if you remember the doctor with the red hair.
Next Generation.
Yes. And she used to have this machine that she'd be scanning her patients, and then she would put in the frequencies and heal them. That was a PEMF machine, but on a very, very small scale. So there are so many applications that can be used here, and I even would take it as far as something a client had mentioned to me. A person who has a lot of spiritual gifts and abilities, and after she had about 14 sessions, she was dealing with osteoarthritis, and she had tremendous results. And she came across a book called PEMF Therapy Points of Light, and it goes into a different perspective, because we are electromagnetic beings. We are. And they were saying their perspective was, as time goes on and more emerges about the uses of this, the applications can go even broader, even deeper, because there's like codes of light. There are codes of light, which is what each frequency is.
A code of light that becomes a chorus of light, that becomes an orchestra of light, that's interpreted by the mind, that's in the hypnagogic state, in between sleep and awake, that lucid state, so the I am presence can be fully empowered in that moment to do something with the motion of energy that's working through them, with them, and around them, allowing the unseen world to become some form of seen, allowing the unknown to become known. We are machines of making the unknown known. We're here as a spiritual agenda-driven being saying, here, come, let's make the unknown known. Healing is doing that, taking it in stages and processes, and so there's not events that define the healing as being this, that, or whatever, other than the stage and phase that you are in. When choosing to use these types of techniques is a lifestyle. So we talk about them as going and getting 1 or 2 treatments. We live in a world where many people that are our listeners That's part of their experimenting process, getting a treatment here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So these devices are used in doctors' offices all over the world where you can go and get treatments.
A lot of doctors actually use them on themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So, at the part of educating yourself, go to your local search, go to your Google search engine or whatever search engine you use and type in your zip code and EMF therapy. You'll notice quite a few countries provide it fully, everything. Now, again, when you're looking into these things, I always recommend educate, educate, educate. Go to the testimonials on the YouTube pages. Look for PEMF testimonials. What you discover is two schools of thought, high frequency and low frequency.
Mm-hmm.
They both work. And it's not about challenging one to be better than the other. They both work. We still live in a placebo-based reality. And light hacks the source of the placebo-based reality and allows you to hack your own hologram with your own out loud name it to claim it system. Now, there are people out there that are wondering how to do this. You can also contact the website here. We do intensives with individuals who want to jump on the healing journey and go through some of these very advanced states of healing. Both Ellen and I offer specialized services for that. So you go to andrewbartzis.com, or you can contact mpa@galactichistorian.com. So, Eleanor, we're going to continue our conversation. Now we're going to go into the name it to claim it system.
Yes.
The out loud system that we use, the meditation teachings. Share some of your experiences with the meditation teaching.
Well, what they have created individually and collectively is a unique system that I can come back to anytime I want to, that actually change the very fabric of my reality, internally, externally. And they allow me to do something which is imprinting my reality. Since I've come into contact, not only with your work, but with the meditations specifically, they allow us a true self-healing system that you don't need to go and, I'm not saying don't go and see a therapist, but whereas you might have pressures or stresses or may have, bad habits or bad strategies, let's say, for dealing with those things, or you simply want to maintain yourself at a high frequency every day. The meditations allow deep healing, and they also allow continuity between all of them.
Because it aligns the experiences. So the advanced heart meditation, which comes with the free, if you sign up for the Living the Mystical Life Daily to get the free material out. And we are having a special on the Living the Mystical Life Daily course. For anyone that has a session, you will get the course for $400 off. So you can go to contact mpa@galactichistorian.com for that. Anyways, the meditation teachings, when you are using them, they create results immediately because you are creating your rules, your borders, your policies, your procedures, and you're seeing and you're unseen. You're confirming and affirming your reality as your imprint, and it's no one else's imprint.
Yes. I mean, there are many systems out there, and many systems work for different individuals. For me personally, like I'm sure for a lot of the audience out there, I had been through so much training and so many systems, from neurolinguistic programming at a very young age, right down to the psychology of vision for 7 years, all the metaphysical trainings. I was a part of one of these mystery schools Andrew talked about that do very, very intensive and ancient healing modalities such as DNA activations and etheric surgery, etc. But there was always something for me that was missing, and I was quite aware of it. And the system that Andrew has created and presented to the world was really all of the missing keys I was looking for, because I was very, very logically able to view and to witness and to experience the transformations and the change it was creating on my life at a consistent basis, and always keeping the awareness around all of these practices, whether it's, saying the out loud, name it to claim it, the meditations, or healing, learning these new practices. The key is joy. You need not go to any school to know that. This is an internal truth that, a lot of systems are quite serious and can put us into shame, blame, guilt, and we feel like we must overachieve. But keeping the frequency of joy and acknowledgement in the moment that we're doing this.
So it becomes sacred.
Yes.
In the heart of joy is the intention of sacredness. And when you make that leap into making it sacred, it isn't about faith in anything other than yourself.
Yeah, it's not about trying to make yourself feel better because it's a mental construct of doing the right thing. It is that deep sacred act and bowing to oneself, while at the same time utilizing tools that create your sovereign bubble of reality, where you don't have all these multiple factors coming to you that can throw you, derail you right off course.
And once you're off course, you don't really know how to get back on course. And that's the other part of the living the mystical life daily. It reminds you where true north is, true south is, true east, true west. The mystical life prayer allows you to see the 7 directions for what they are. The above, place of the ancestors. The north, the place of the ancestors. The south, the place of the innocence and inner child. The east, illumination and clarity. West, the doorway of the dream time. Above, the below, and the within, each allowing a synchronistic process of self-awareness. You can, and at any moment in time, engage your conscious application of the sacred and make these meditation teachings very informative to your self-observation. So taking the wisdom of what's being said and applying it to observing yourself. That's self-illumination in its most basic form. The next part of this system is, once you're illuminated, what do you do with it? You discover the courage that is needed to endure change, to not allow others to steal your life force and vitality and good nature and not be equal co-creators. You learn how to separate the density of your reality and others' reality. You learn how to not take on the debt of others, especially those of the ancient times.
And one of the biggest traps I had personally experienced, and for that I am grateful because it gave me awareness. It gave me a reference point. This terminology that Andrew, I believe it was in the private reading years ago I had with you, that referred to the false placebo synchronicity. So when we're not imprinting on our reality is imprinting us by tacit consent. It's like Martin Luther King said, it was either him or Malcolm X, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And these are having the spiritual energy and structure in the physical body within your aura to maintain a coherent structure that doesn't get imprinted and jabbed with all types of other energies that we figure are us, but they're not, or situations where we know we really shouldn't be there, and it's a repetition with no illumination. And to have the awareness to say, this is not a heart-based synchronicity. This is a placebo synchronicity.
The next part of living the mystical life daily is learning what a judgment is and an expectation is. Allowing hindsight to be hindsight, not a judgment or an expectation for foresight. When we are able to understand the compartments of perspective, and then we learn how to take many forms of perspective and make it a single unique perspective for the state of observing something special in your spirituality. We're using your inner mystical skills, your inner self-observance skills in the self-illumination process to go, I want to be aware of this. I am now ready to accept the mantle of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. I believe that you've spoke about this several times, and again, a phrase that they use in shamanic circles, but it's the stalking of one's own self. Mm-hmm. It is the ability, and this is one of the absolute requirements for true growth and change, is truly being aware of our own habit patterns, thought patterns, becoming aware when we have a thought and saying, this is not the I am present speaking? Is it a program running in the sympathetic or parasympathetic? What is the source? And at a feeling level, if it doesn't feel good, we have the ability and the right to banish it from our being, to say that I choose something else.
I choose not to exchange charge and polarity with you. Because that's what they're pitching in their tacit consent. Once you understand charge and polarity, so charge is the energy behind the message. Polarity is how much the messenger is waiting for you to respond immediately to it, react immediately to it. And that's accepting through tacit consent choices being imprinted to you. And when you say, no, I'm not accepting your choices of your hologram, blending with my hologram and changing my reality.
Again, one of the tools in hacking the hologram. And, since we're on this topic, I know that many out there who are following Living the Mystical Life Daily and doing the practice, I would love for you to give a review for everyone out there, Andrew, on the psychic pheromone work and the importance of that on a continual level, because this is one of the tools that all of the teachings I took on board and practiced and really, really witnessed the change it was creating. And these are one of those practices that I do pretty much on a daily basis.
So what you're referring to as psychic pheromones, the energy of attraction and repulsion that we give off. And that starts in the marrow. And this leads into, we're going to be reading out the advanced heart meditation here in just a little bit. And what the advanced heart meditation teaching is a way to observe the heart, to be inside the heart as the observer and the experiencer, to heal the pericardium, which is a membrane around the heart that holds stored, programmed water that may be heart wounds or heart aches or heart joys. You learn to nurture that piece and clear out the things that are negatively affecting it. And you see the heart is the fetus in the womb, just a handful of cells, another form of perspective. That is you, before you had arms and legs, that is still the I am dreaming you. And you learn different forms of relationships with the heart. And then the blood moving through the heart, seeing it all, empowering it all. And then you move into the marrow. Now, the marrow is about every 56 days, your blood is completely replenished and replaced. And it is where you imprint into the marrow, just as you imprint to your reality, your contract revocations, what you want out of that. And one of the special parts of the advanced heart meditation is to imprint spiritual experiences you can know and fully understand, dreams, healing, so on and so forth. And is where you bring pheromone work is what I'm attracting and what I'm repelling, imprinted directly into my heart for the next 56 days, because these are my goals that I will accomplish with my sacred discipline. That is the essence of doing spiritual pheromone work. And when you learn the semantics, the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's, when it comes to truly your intention about what it is you want to attract and repel, there are things we want to attract that we may not be ready for. And there are other things that we want to repel that are the greatest benefit for us, because there's a perception-deception filter involved. And this is what makes pheromones so easy to misuse and so incredibly potent when used correctly, to clear out those that will steal your life force and vitality, and to know over the next 56 days if people start dropping away because you imprinted that. Okay? You must be ready for the responsibility of imprinting with your pheromones. Now, there are other aspects to, let's just say, put spice to your pheromones. Let's say if you're trying to attract a mate, well, it's not just the traditional, I want a person that walks in the park and the beach and the this and the that. You've got to truly say what makes your heart sing. You're looking for a vibrational match. And if you are putting through your pheromone a vibrational match, you is. And you better be willing to put not just 5 minutes a day into it, 15, 20, an hour a day. You imprint into your very pheromones what it is that you want, and I'm ready to accept the responsibility of being aware when it comes in front of me. Okay. So let's do the heart meditation here. Okay. Do you want to start?
Sure. This advanced heart meditation is to clear the heart. This will require a few layers of personal imagery. The challenge here is to allow the imagery to create as the voice, and the imagery of the voice to create within yourself. The heart is a resonant process. And what we are assisting here is that resonance process. This meditation and teaching is one by design to give that energy, that frequency, that knowingness, that wisdom. So here are a set of imageries we can co-create.
Within your own mind that will assist you at the advanced levels of clearing the heart. Breathe and relax. Come into oneness, whatever that means to you. Come into unity, whatever that means to you. Allow distraction to fall away. Allow your knowingness to expand. Allow your life force to be at its highest potential, for we're about to go on a journey of the heart and its understanding of perspectives, and our perspectives create misunderstanding.
Now, what I would like you to do is summon a medical image of what a heart looks like. As if you were to see a heart in an open chest that does not cause fear in you. Allow yourself to see the image of the heart muscle, its valve, the aorta, the veins, the muscles. That is the physical representation that started you as a little micro being when a sperm and an egg met, and the first sets of cells that were created made the heart.
This is your first step of knowingness. The heart muscle has grown to this age you are today and is a part of every experience you have ever been and every experience you will have ever been in the past, present, and future. Give this heart muscle love. This is the very essence of self-love. Bring energy to this heart muscle that's inside you. Bring it rainbows, butterflies, wisdom, knowingness, your life story, experiences, joy, happiness, and all of those things that make this life great.
This heart muscle is your interacting point of consciousness. It is the moving frequency of time. Allow this heart muscle to have complete and total access to your brain, wisdom, intellect, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Allow this heart muscle neutral access to all aspects of the physical body that may have been disconnected through trauma or spirit energy.
Allow this heart muscle to come into union with the spinal column. Order all of the fascia around the heart muscle, that white stringy substances in the images. Allow that to relax so the heart is not under intense pressure.
Oftentimes, we take damage to the heart from loved ones that have caused trauma or pain. It goes to the fluid energy inside the pericardium. Summon the image of the pericardium around the heart. Send energy to the very fluid that is in the center of this pericardium. Understand every cell and atom that's within that fluid stack needs to be revitalized, refilled, repaired, renewed, and recycled. For there is where we hold some of our most ancient pains of this lifetime and other lifetimes too. Go directly to the valves that create the actual pumping action and see inside them your blood, your very life essence flow. Focus your intellect upon this heart muscle. Allow your intellect to understand how this pumping of blood, this spiritual machine that started your birth as the most vital organ in your body, it must have complete and total access to the being that you are on all levels of awareness, in full protection with the I Am Self. There can no longer be any form of mislocation, dislocation, or non-access. The heart is where we began. It is not a point to be misused.
Allow the energy in. The heart is surrounded in the pericardium, a protective sac that holds fluid, so that when the heart is pumping at higher or lower rates, this fluid assists the muscles pumping, so it does not have to use so much energy. See this frequency, see this pericardium as the shell of the heart.
Here is where we must make conscious application of the sacred, so the heart muscle, in alignment with this meditation, can expand the heart's green and red and loving energy into the pericardium and cleans it like a power washing system, like a car going through a car wash, a thunderstorm coming through your heart. Allow this deep into you, that clean, cleansed feeling, protective armor. You must now empower this with new imagery.
The pericardium now is a filter, so time is not as damaging to the heart. The pericardium is now the filter that allows the heart more frequency when the mind experiences no time. So the heart and mind are no longer disconnected by resonant frequency. Empower and imprint into the pericardium.
This pericardium must now regularly be cleaned as part of your meditative process. This is known as continuous upkeep of our spiritual beliefs and processes.
The next thing, your central nervous system. It is the inter-co-creating and interconnected with every beat of the heart, with every action of cell, within every creation of fluid excretion, that it creates some form of biochemical reaction. The heart is a complete part of you, completely a part of you. You must now bring your awareness into that heart muscle, connected to its pericardium. Bring your mind, your intellect, your ego, your sympathetic and parasympathetic bodies into the heart muscle. Those are all the connections to the central nervous system that you need.
Bring them into sacred neutral witness in spiritual court of equity from the heart muscle that began at birth. Declare that frequency inside your heart. Illuminate all aspects of your central nervous system, like branches of trees going off in every direction, with roots that go in every other direction. Bring a golden frequency of light to that root and branching system. Allow your mind that's within your heart to co-create this golden light flowing into all parts of your body, mind, and soul. Challenge your intellect to have the imagery and discipline to co-create the light source. Challenge your sympathetic to allow your body this experience. Challenge the sympathetic to let down and allow the mystical to occur.
In this moment of full light from the heart, we must understand walking forward means we have to understand the very blood in our body, that the heart is pumping at all times. We must go into our marrow of our bones.
Summon an image of your skeletal system. Wherever there is a hollowness, in a bone, there is marrow that is producing blood cells, that is connected to a system that brings blood into the body. This is your central focus, all of those hollow points within the bones that create blood.
Your femur is one of the biggest areas that creates marrow. Your ribs, your arms, all this is constantly creating blood about every 56 days. Here is where you take command from the heart that is connected to all fluid and interactive systems throughout the central nervous system to be the blood, to the marrow. Go into the marrow and create this golden light. Every aspect of it is saturated. All the current blood in your system is now cleansed with this golden light. All aspects in the blood are bringing about an illusion of heart, mind, and soul, and are now converted with this golden light into creation, inspiration, and dreams. The heart is a transmutation vessel of life force. Anything in his blood can be transmuted at will when connected with the I am heart fetus being for the higher purpose of clearly understanding our reality. Take this knowledge deep into your mind, connected to the heartbeat of you.
All the blood has now been cleared. You will have to go back regularly and look at your blood and understand we take on energy from others into our blood. Some at the surface of our auras and others in our blood. We must actively clear that blood, like saging a room.
The next step is to visualize the depthness of your marrow. This is where you must put in the next imprint of what you want out of life. If you want to begin to seek the mystical and the sacred, that you imprint into the very marrow that you'll be creating blood for the next 56 days. You will say, I want inspiration, mystical experiences that I'm able to process, understand, and not be afraid of. I want mystical contact with my guides, angels, and my guardians, so I can return with full understanding, or enough understanding to create a future in which I go forth with my divine source power.
These are the types of imprints you want to bring. Allow your mind a minute here. A minute to create one for yourself. For each time you go into the marrow, you always want to double down, put more upon it, because this is your ability to co-create as a multidimensional being and channel an agenda for the very blood within you.
For the blood that is to be produced for the next 3 days in my marrow, you are embodied, you are under special energies. You are bringing the highest form of heart co-creation and spirit into your being, so you may see higher frequencies, so you may shed off inner traumas and transmute any heart damage into joy and happiness. So you may summon more strength to make your soul of your soul present now.
It is your divine co-creative right to speak and embody these words.
The next layer now is your heart chakra, the actual energy system that creates the photonic light intersection of a soul stream in manifest body of the now. It is a spiraling green frequency, front and back. I want you to bring the image of your own face and overlay it into your heart, mind, soul. That is the residual image of this lifetime, your heart, your face. This is the I am present now. Past versions of you have different residual images, but share the same soul light frequency.
You must reconnect this being to the heart. You must clear out all the medulla that chooses adrenaline before heart-based action. actively disconnects the medulla from direct adrenal gland action on any emotional response that's not directly related with heart space action. The heart will always know when to act or react, for it has learned very much over this lifetime of how this reality works.
State this to your I am heart now. I am not afraid of a light switch turning on or off, or a cricket in the room. I shall not have a flinch response ready for something down in the corner. I turn off all systems of paranoia and allow myself this being that was born in this technology, who's gone through the birth and the great forgetting and the great remembering of who I am. I bring that forth into this being. I disempower the sympathetic and parasympathetic from creating any new programs, and I delete any other programs that disconnect this I am from my central nervous system or my ability to co-create with my blood, my bone marrow, and my chakra system. Allow that imagery of your mind and your face and the heart interconnected through the central nervous system and interconnected and co-creating with the very blood that you are. Take this imagery to the next level, and you will have your mystical moment every moment you live. See you in the dream room. Powerful, powerful teaching, Eleanor.
Yes.
So I understand that you've used this on many of your clients that were on the PEMF mat. You care to share any wisdom from some of those?
The response was phenomenal from the perspective that I had a lot of people who had actual big breakthroughs. So, when you're dealing with clients who have trauma, who have gone through painful things or are going through something painful at that moment, this was a modality that actually allowed them to clear that trauma and to we all know about Emoto's work and imprinting the water. So when we choose consciously to re-imprint the water around our heart, we have a different programming in our heart, in our marrow. It also provided the opportunity for me to suggest for them to continue to do it. And so I've had many of them move on and do this on a continual basis of their choice of meditation, their upkeep, something that they use, once a month, once a week, but helps them to bring balance when they're feeling challenged by what it is they're going through in this reality.
So there are different aspects of the advanced heart meditation, like the pericardium. It is when you clear it out, like the car wash and the thunderstorm. It's that inner programmed waters. Those are some of the hardest waters to reprogram, especially if you don't know that that's where it's stored.
Precisely.
Then there are waters that are stored in the brain. After you clear out the waters of the heart, and at the end of the meditation teaching, you're bringing your mind, your residual image of who you are now, the ego and everything, and bringing it into the heart so that you can reprogram the waters of the brain too, and allow heart imprint there. When you're turning off the medulla oblongata, it's so that the potential of love first is in your choice points before fight, flight, or freeze is instantly put in there as a chemical reaction.
And I like to remind persons who have, challenges creating imagery, when they're in a meditation experience, that one of the techniques I like to use, well, first it's deeply relaxation and not worrying about it too much, knowing you can do it. Well, things like turning off the adrenals is an extremely important practice, not only in the meditation, but, on our life walk. And I love
this world is adrenal activity. Just learning how to have an on and off switch of it.
This is what I was going to say. Just a simple visual when you go at the medulla, the back of the skull, just underneath where the skull ends at the base of the neck. And if we can just visualize a standard light switch, and you just hit the switch. You hit the switch, or you can hit the switch at the adrenals and just turn it off like you would turn off a light switch. And the more that you do this, the more efficient you become at actually creating that chemical change, which allows you to go into a deeper state of healing and connection with your heart, and therefore imprinting at that point in time.
Imprinting, and we're back to Hashimoto's teaching. And it's imprinting our reality. Now, the heart has its own beliefs that become intrinsic and inherent as we're growing to help us teach us heart lessons. When you begin to become familiar with your heart as the I am heart now, as a state of being in the heart meditation, we must remind you that these were meant to be done in your voice. So when you reach a point where I am heart now, as the person speaking it in the space time that it was recorded, and can you align being an I am heart time as the person listening to it in the future? And will the person listening to the future connect to their past being and say, I am now a chain of I ams who is accepting the torch of responsibility to be a conscious application of the sacred practitioner person. Okay. Advanced heart meditation has other aspects, programming the marrow. Now, you've had a number of personal experiences and related with your clients of working on the marrow. Just give your particular thought of programming the marrow.
Well, this is where obviously the blood has its water components, etc. But this takes it to another level of what you really, for me, the work within the bone marrow has a lot to do with manifestation in the 3D world, where, you know, along with the awareness of, let's just take concepts you talk about like ancestral debt or different ancestral karmas. Well, to be aware of those, and we can make different choice points, but this is where, for me, you do the heavy excavation, you know, in the earth of where you plant your seeds that you want to grow. Because it is planting, you know, psychic seeds and imprinting your reality at the deepest layer.
It's seeding and de-weeding.
Yes, and it's the marrow is where it cannot be overridden by the parasympathetic and sympathetic systems. Is that correct?
Yes, it's Masaru Emoto, not Hashimoto. That's the thyroid disease guy.
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt the flow.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Robert, our ever present, aware producer in the background. Yes, imprinting our reality, not for our thyroid. That's another meditation teaching. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. This is a really, really powerful one. We're going to do the shaman's death. Dun, 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 dun. And for everyone, if you go to andrewbartzis.com and sign up for the newsletter and the continuing information, you will also be able to get for free the Advanced Heart Meditation as a PDF download, also on the front page, the Shaman's Death, which you are going to read now under the Insights tab. And you also get the Sanctuary for All Souls, which is taking that to a whole new different level. Shaman's Death. All right, so instead of doing paragraph to paragraph, how would we do page to page?
Sure.
Make it easy. All right.
I call to my sacred medicine spread, that which aids me in understanding my infinite spirit. The healer's tools have been laid out in ceremonial fashion. I call to the four elements and bring their essence into my sacred healing space in equal co-creation with all sentient kind. I call to the ancestors of this medicine reading to bring communal balance with the words being manifested in the now. I call to the dreamers of the southern skies, our mediums to the innocence of our 7 future generations. In this shamanic moment of no time now, I co-create this communal reading for all sentient kind living on earth now. The shaman's death is the lesson of the now. It speaks of life, death, and rebirth as a cyclical process of understanding who we were and who we are now. With every death, there is a rebirth of the self. Some cyclical form of shedding of the old self requires us to look at our habit patterns of life. Many patterns lead us out of balance with our needs. Often, we confuse our needs with our desires. This is the nature of the shaman's death, to see how habitual patterns create shells we must learn to discard in this ever-evolving dance of spirit life, balanced with real life. At times, we take back old shells we discarded long ago just to feel safe and secure. This is the other teaching of the shaman's death. With the new requires new creation, so the body is involved with the whole process of self-evolution. The body is what houses the skills and all habit patterns used to function with the holographic reality, blending into our dreaming experience of belief.
The temporal people of the now are the only ones who have this experience of shedding and creating cyclical with Mother Nature. We, the people of the now, have forgotten the detailed ways of our ancestors. So many of us have been brought up in the bosom of mass media. They don't know the truth of our bare feet touching the ground without the chatter of world entertainment in earshot. The songs of the birds in the jungles, the chorus of crickets or flocks of geese speaking their sacred words as they head in seasonal directions. How do we teach our people to let go of the tit that milks their knowingness from the very breath they breathe? We do this by creating a legacy of truth our 7 future generations of ancestors can touch, feel, and know is future now real. To follow the path of sacred living, the shaman's death, daily, is the greatest discipline one can teach themselves during these times of generational change. Look deep into the ways that you live your life. What can you do to make sacred something in your own belief system? What can you do each day to let go of fear, envy, and jealousy, or the 3 nags of shame, blame, and guilt? See how we torture ourselves with perceived debt created by others. See how we can come to a cyclical process of letting go with the best of intentions, so all that comes back to you is perfect synchronicities with great mystery. I call to the Great Spirit who lives within great mystery. You who is the source of sources, I call to you in this sacred moment of infinite reflection of who I am and what I am doing in this temporal now. I call to your wisdom so I may see the humbleness of my position within my own soul-family interaction, so I may nurture all of my past and future generations with the wisdom of living in the now. The red coral of the great oceans of Earth Mother have been held sacred by the indigenous peoples of all Earth realms since the dawn of conceptual time. Red coral has been used to gauge all forms of time through the process of long-term nurturing and the lessons learned through allowing time to not affect the nature of our nourishing expression. To nurture oneself is the greatest gift we can return to Earth Mother at this moment in time. Allowing healing to be a process and not an event, we become the greatest wisdom of why red coral is the Earth Mother's blood teacher.
Red coral is of Earth's blood. It is in the link to her sacred heartbeat. We all hear deep inside the womb, long before we go through the forgetting of the birth canal. Red coral reminds us of the infinite nurturing in the placenta of the mother's womb. It also teaches us when we leave the womb to experience. At birth, A new sacred placenta of void energy encompasses us on our life walk. This new placenta is what we make sacred through our learning of what is in our DNA, our very blood that procreates our version of life on this world. Red coral comes from the great water nurseries of life, the places the whales, dolphins, and tunas go to spawn, the 7 future generations of Earth's life. We all share red blood on planet Earth. It is the gift she gave us so union and communion can exist at all levels of creating within Earth's realm. Red coral is one of Earth's water nurseries, represent the very essence of nurturing womb time. We, the generations of the now time, bear the responsibility of acting in the now. The ancestors of the past gave us our traditions, cultures, and esoteric practices for us to learn. For the future to exist in the now, we must learn how to live in balance with the ancestors of the lands we live on, be it a concrete jungle, urban sprawl, or ancient forest. We are the ones who act in the now. For the future to exist, we must nurture it with the passion spark. Each person will have an individual journey back into the natural way of life. Our former experience will color our future experience and continue to co-create until we make a clear separation of conscious application of the sacred art of our daily life walk. We have all earned the rites of passage through living on Earth. At this moment, suspended in no time, I choose to engage my natural rights as a sovereign-born being, born on Earth Mother, through the natural way of the womb of a sacred feminine. I recalibrate all of my soul frequency to the natural way. By making that very choice, you have earned the rites of passage into the next level of knowingness and wisdom, linked with the infinite soul. Each being on Earth seeks their own way to connect to the infinite being they are. The process always comes to an understanding of scale and size in which our other selves work at. We walk the rites of passage and we finish the old. We do not fall back into the old ways of self-deception and self-perversion of sacred living. By accomplishing the rites of passage means you must upkeep your continuous co-creation with Earth Mother's realms. It is your sovereign duty. We do this by our elemental connection to all that is, the four-legged, the winged ones, the scaled, and the soft-shelled, the birds, bees, ducks, and dinosaurs, all have a place in Great Mystery's plan.
Aho. Aho. Powerful teachings for you to begin to practice on your own. We are each here at every moment of the day to be self-teachers, self-illuminated people, to live in the mystical life daily process. We are offering a special on that. For those of you that have been sticking around and have just been practicing the material that we have out there, if you're ready to make the leap, if you book a session now, whether it's a half hour, an hour, you will get $400 off of the Living the Mystical Life Daily course. That's a 6-week online course that takes these teachings that you've heard and expands them 1,000-fold. Nearly 100 pages of teachings for you to go through your out loud, name it to claim it process. So you can fortify your reality. So you can begin to have your form of innate spiritual communications and healing. Now, some of the other aspects of living the mystical life daily, there's 8 meditation teachings. There's an additional 32 teachings, which culminates into the alchemical union and communion consciousness stripe, which is a little bit more than a year and 2 months old now, which is really going powerful. And over the last year that it's been out, I have been getting emails from people that are using this in their sacred ceremonies, that are using it in their ayahuasca journeys. Just a couple months ago, we had a lady call who was actually in between her one of the process of doing a 5-day ayahuasca repeat over and over again. When you bring these out loud, name it to claim it teachings into a sacred ceremony, to be the peacekeeper, the peacemaker, to understand that you create your own reality, you can have very, very intense communications with those beings who are helping you purge the darkness and embrace the light. These teachings are to remind you that you are the transformation, transmutation, I am presence experience in the DNA body. You must bring yourself in. You must stay here and have experience, even when the body, mind, and spirit as a complex being is under challenges from different medicine teachings. Allowing yourself the experience to have deep communication with that which is natural co-creative evolution. That's the essence of the union and communion and consciousness strike. What have you found as you repeat the process over and over again?
Well, for me, it brings me back to a state of balance. For me, each time it's like bringing that infinity sign, bringing the awareness back into me, where I can imprint again my reality with the knowingness that what I am saying is in fact changing my reality, Andrew. That's the thing. I mean, okay, for example, when the alchemical union and communion consciousness first came out, I remember utilizing it on the winter solstice ceremonies that I did on the land and the house I was living on at the time. And I remember that I had the oddest events go on that were undeniable. My internet went down and it couldn't be fixed for about 3 weeks. And several appliances of mine actually completely stopped working. So for me, I mean, that was obviously along with not only the alchemical union, communion consciousness strike, but all of the teachings, the ancestral soups that were put down. You know, the deeper you get into the work, the more results you can yield. So I get the healing, the resolution, and I get the reclaiming of my sovereignty each time, because the thing with these things is that it's not something that you're going to, of course, you can read it once and it can change and transform your life, but it is a practice that must be maintained. In other words, it's like saying, you know, you're covered in mud and you come home and say, I want to be clean. So you go have a shower. But if you don't shower for another 20 days, you're not going to stay in the same condition. And so this system helps you to get out of the traps of the instant gratification where you want a quick fix, something to do now that's going to last for X amount. This is not a spell. It's not, you know, it doesn't work like that. It works, you spell it out. You literally say it out. But you yourself, which is the beauty and the authenticity and the power in it, anyone who says this spells out to their reality the rules, borders, and boundaries of what you are accepting and what you are not accepting from reality. So you are, in fact, hacking around with the words.
And that's why today we're offering a unique opportunity for those that are waiting for the kick in the ass, the instant gratification teaching. You can contact MPA at Galactic Historian for the boot camp ass kick process. But that is for only those that need to take that leap, that jump. So over the years, I have resisted doing these boot camps because people have to find their own discipline. And just a couple days ago, I received an email asking me to do a boot camp because of time constraints for professional people that are out there. And those time constraints can be a thing. That's why every year we have an event and we have retreats that come up. So we're going to do this on a more private, personal basis. For those that want to have a one-on-one boot camp or a handful of people in a boot camp process, contact my PA at mpa@galactichistorian.com. We are looking to do some really advanced teachings with people out there. And for those of you that have done this for a while and are looking to get into the mentorship program, we have spaces that are open left for the mentorship program. Our 18-month program has closed. The amount of people that wanted to get into that, that has filled up and closed, but there are still opportunities for the 12-month process of getting into the mentorship. Stop on by the website, andrewbartzis.com, for further information, or contact mpa@galactichistorian.com. And the next thing I'd like to touch on is how the name it to claim it system affects your family, even though they may not believe. Now, when we're imprinting and programming a reality, we are cleaning the weed. And if, let's say, you have a child or a next door neighbor or something that is negative, when you begin to imprint your reality, in essence, what you're doing to those others.
You're imprinting them as well.
Okay? But you're also trying not to directly step on their journey. That's the key and the nuance of living the mystical life daily. You are in a perpetual process of discerning, am I stepping on another person's journey without creating self-paranoia? Because it's vital to know when you are stepping on a person's journey and your ego slightly colors the situation to make you feel it's all right. I'm going to make a statement. If any energy worker says they're doing work on you after they've done it, it is the greatest violation. You must be made aware if anyone's going to do any work on you. If they tell you afterwards, that is stepping on your journey. There are other aspects of you being practitioners using it for people that are adults. Your children up to 8, 9, 10, you can do it for them. Once they reach that age where they're pretty self-aware and they're making their own sets of choices, as mothers, as fathers, as caretakers, you must begin to know that they're no longer that innocent being. They have stepped up and are taking some level of responsibility, which means you as a responsible individual must know that your practice cannot infringe and step on their journey if they're making those choices that way.
It just disallows others from stepping on your journey, which is the equal co-creation process.
Right. You step on my journey, something else will step on your journey. That's the match, the frequency match there. Okay. When we take these all into a overarching perspective, the living the mystical life daily is a life path. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years. And then you get masterful hindsight and masterful foresight. So the masterful manifestation here is imprinting into your reality in such a way that nothing can change your perspective of the overarching point of view. You have put enough pieces together in the great puzzle of life to know how the reality works and know some false piece of viral information like hollow or like flat earth can come by and change who you are. No piece of information from this person or that person can tell you that the awakening's coming. It'll be an inside yourself moment and process. The living the mystical life daily is your individual choice each day to make conscious application of the sacred. We want to thank everyone for showing up for today's Living the Mystical Life Daily webcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our Adventures to Reality call-in show. Stop on by the website, andrewbartzis.com. See us at Facebook, Galactic Historian, YouTube, Galactic Historian, also on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Oh, we have to tell them about, we're on Facebook in Russia now.
Oh, yes, forgot this. We are now starting a Facebook in Russia on a program that's called VK. Mm-hmm. So any Russian-speaking audience members out there, please stop on by the Galactic Historian VK site and give us a like and a comment. We are also starting on Chinese YouTube called Youku. We will have the Galactic historian not name on the Yoku. If you are a Asian speaking, please stop on by the Yoku site and give us a like and a watch on the video. Thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the Adventures in the Reality Show.
Thanks for having me on, Andrew.
Well,